I never expected my boss to show up at my doorstep at midnight, mascara streaking down her face, rain soaking through her blouse. But there she stood, Catherine Pierce, the untouchable CEO, who made grown men tremble in boardrooms, looking completely broken. What she asked me to do next would change everything between us forever. Daddy, who's at the door? My 6-year-old daughter, Lily's sleepy voice called from behind me, and I watched Catherine's eyes widen as she realized she wasn't just crossing a professional boundary. She was stepping into my carefully guarded family life. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one brewing inside me as I let her in. I had no idea that by morning I'd be forced to choose between the job that kept a roof over my daughter's head and the woman who was slowly claiming my heart. "I'm sorry to barge in like this, Jake," Catherine said, her voice barely audible, over the rain pounding against the windows. She tucked a strand of wet hair behind her ear, looking nothing like the powerhouse who had chewed out our entire marketing department just yesterday. I didn't know where else to go. I nodded, grabbing a towel from the hallway closet and handing it to her. "Lily, honey, go back to bed. I'll be there in a minute to tuck you in again." My daughter, ever perceptive, studied Catherine with curious eyes before padding back to her bedroom, her favorite stuffed rabbit dragging behind her. "You have a beautiful daughter," Catherine said, dabbing at her eyes. "She's my whole world," I replied, leading Catherine to the living room. The place was modest, nothing like the penthouse I imagined she lived in, but it was home. Toys were scattered across the floor and a half-finished puzzle dominated the coffee table. "Sorry about the mess. Single dad life isn't exactly Instagram-worthy." Catherine's laugh was hollow. "Trust me, my perfect-looking life isn't all it's cracked up to be either." She sank onto my worn couch, still clutching the towel. "My fiancé ex-fiancé, now I caught him with my best friend tonight at our engagement party." "Damn," I whispered, sitting beside her, but maintaining a careful distance. "That's cold. 7 years together." She continued, staring at her hands. And apparently they'd been seeing each other for 2 of them. Everyone knew, everyone except me. I'd worked under Catherine for 3 years managing the company's financial department. She was brilliant, demanding, and completely closed off. The woman sitting beside me, now vulnerable and hurt, was someone I'd never met before. "I don't even know why I came here," she admitted. "I just got in my car and started driving, and somehow I ended up at your door." "It's okay," I said softly. "Sometimes we need someone who isn't tangled up in our mess." She looked up, then, her eyes meeting mine. "At work, today, you were the only one who stood up to me when I was being unreasonable about the quarterly projections. You said I was letting my stress cloud my judgment." I winced. "Yeah, probably not my finest career move." "No," she shook her head. "You were right. And you were the only one brave enough to say it." She took a deep breath. "You said I was better than that, but I was letting fear drive my decisions." I nodded, remembering our heated exchange in the conference room. "Say that again," she whispered. But, looking at me this time, my heart hammered against my ribs as I turned to face her fully. "You're better than this, Catherine. You're letting fear drive your decisions." The air between us crackled with something dangerous and electric. For a moment, I thought she might lean forward, close the distance between us. Instead, she closed her eyes. "I should go," she said, suddenly standing up. This was inappropriate. "I'm your boss and I'm a mess, and you have a daughter to think about." "Catherine, thank you for the towel," she said, already moving toward the door. "I'll see you Monday. We can pretend this never happened." But as she reached for the doorknob, a small voice stopped her. "Are you my daddy's girlfriend?" Lily stood in the hallway, her rabbit clutched to her chest, eyes wide with curiosity. Catherine froze and I rushed to my daughter's side. "No, sweetie, this is Miss Pierce. She works with Daddy." "You look sad," Lily observed, studying Catherine with that unnerving directness only children possess. "When I'm sad, Daddy makes me hot chocolate with tiny marshmallows. It helps a lot." The tension in Catherine's shoulders softened slightly. She knelt down to Lily's level. "That sounds like excellent medicine. I can show you how he makes it," Lily offered, extending her small hand. And just like that, at 12:30 a.m. on a stormy Friday night, my boss, my daughter, and I found ourselves in my tiny kitchen, making hot chocolate as if it were the most natural thing in the world. What I didn't realize then was that this midnight visit would set in motion events that would test everything. I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and what truly matters in life. Monday morning arrived with a vengeance. I dropped Lily off at school, my mind replaying Friday night's surreal encounter. Catherine had stayed for nearly 2 hours talking with Lily about everything from favorite colors to whether unicorns could swim. By the time she left, the rain had stopped and something had shifted between us. Walking into the office, I braced myself for awkwardness. Instead, I found chaos. Jake, my assistant Tara, practically tackled me at the elevator. "Where have you been? Haven't you checked your email? The whole place is going nuclear. What's happening?" I asked, following her frantic pace toward our department. Catherine's ex showed up this morning, made a scene in the lobby. Then the board called an emergency meeting. Rumors they're using this as an excuse to force her out. They've been looking for a reason for months. My stomach dropped. Where is she now? Boardroom. They've been in there for an hour. Without thinking, I changed direction, heading straight for the executive floor. Tara called after me, but I was already gone, taking the stairs two at a time when the elevator proved too slow. The executive assistant outside the boardroom tried to stop me, but I pushed past her, bursting through the heavy wooden doors. 12 heads swiveled toward me, including Catherine's. Her face was composed, professional, but I could see the strain around her eyes. Mr. Sullivan, Charles Westfield, the board chairman, said coldly, "This is a private meeting. I need to speak with Miss Pierce." I said, my heart pounding, "It's urgent." Catherine stood, smoothing her impeccable suit. "Excuse me, gentlemen, 5 minutes." She followed me into the hallway, closing the door behind us. "Jake, what are you doing? They're looking for any reason to question my judgment right now. Is it true they're trying to force you out?" She sighed, rubbing her temples. "My personal life has become a liability. Apparently Richard, my ex, he's threatening to sue the company, claiming I used corporate resources to spy on him. It's complete BS, but the board is spooked." "That's ridiculous," I said, anger rising. "You built this company from nothing. Welcome to corporate America," she said bitterly. "A woman can be brilliant, but the moment her personal life becomes messy, she's a liability." I lowered my voice. "About Friday night. We can't talk about that here." She cut me off, glancing nervously at the boardroom door. "I shouldn't have come to your home. It was unprofessional and unfair to you, Catherine. I need to go back in there and salvage what's left of my career," she said, straightening her shoulders. "Thank you for your concern, Mr. Sullivan, but I'll handle this." The formal use of my last name stunned more than it should have. I watched her walk back into the boardroom, head high every inch, the untouchable CEO again. By lunchtime, the news had spread throughout the company. Catherine Pierce had been placed on administrative leave pending an investigation. Charles Westfield would be acting CEO, and somehow I had been promoted to interim CFO. The message couldn't have been clearer. They were buying my silence. They thought I knew something damaging about Catherine and were offering me a carrot to keep quiet. That night, as I tucked Lily into bed, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Congratulations on the promotion. You'll make an excellent CFO." The words felt like a slap. Did she think I'd orchestrated this, that I'd somehow used her moment of vulnerability against her? I typed and deleted a dozen responses before finally settling on, "This isn't what I wanted." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. "Finally, we don't always get what we want. Take care of yourself and Lily." I stared at my phone, feeling something important slipping through my fingers. Before I could respond, another text came through. "For what it's worth, Friday night was the first time I felt real in years. Thank you for that." 2 weeks passed. Catherine remained on leave, and the company atmosphere grew increasingly tense. Westfield implemented sweeping changes, most of which undid Catherine's progressive policies. Employee morale plummeted. As interim CFO, I was now invited to executive meetings where I watched Westfield systematically dismantle everything Catherine had built. Each time I objected, I was reminded that my position was temporary and could become permanent if I demonstrated appropriate team spirit. The implication was clear: play alone or go back to middle management. With Lily's private school, tuition, and my mother's medical bills, couldn't afford to lose this opportunity, but every compromise felt like a betrayal, not just of Catherine but of myself. Then came the bombshell. Westfield called me into his office late one Friday. "Jake, my boy," he said, pouring himself a scotch without offering me one. "You've been doing excellent work. The board is impressed." "Thank you, sir. We've decided to make your position permanent with a substantial raise, of course." He slid a contract across his desk. "All you need to do is sign this statement." I picked up the document, scanning its contents. My blood ran cold. It was a statement claiming I had witnessed Catherine misusing company resources for personal matters, specifically to investigate her fiancé. It was exactly the evidence they needed to fire her with cause. "This isn't true," I said, dropping the paper as if it had burned me. Westfield's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Truth is relative in business, Jake. Catherine made enemies, powerful ones. She refused to play the game, so this was never about her ex-fiancé's threats. That was merely convenient timing. He admitted the board as wanted, her gone for months. She was too idealistic, bad for the bottom line. I stood up. "I won't sign this. Think about your daughter, Jake," Westfield said, his voice hardening. "Single father, aging mother with medical issues. You need this job." The threat hung in the air between us. "I'll give you the weekend to reconsider," he said, taking back the document. "Monday morning, I expect your signature or your resignation." I walked out of his office in a daze, my mind racing. By the time I picked up Lily from her after-school program, I'd made my decision. That night, After Lily was asleep, I drove to Catherine's address, the one I looked up in the company directory before leaving the office. Her penthouse was in an exclusive building downtown with a doorman who edged me suspiciously. "I'm here to see Catherine Pierce," I said, suddenly aware of my rumpled shirt and the coffee stain on my tie. "Miss Pierce isn't accepting visitors," he replied stiffly. "Please tell her Jake Sullivan is here. It's important." He hesitated, then picked up the phone. After a brief conversation, he nodded reluctantly. "Penthouse floor. She's expecting you." The elevator ride gave me time to second-guess myself. What was I doing here? I was about to throw away financial security for a woman who probably saw me as nothing more than a momentary distraction during a personal crisis. The elevator opened directly into her penthouse. Catherine stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city lights creating a halo around her silhouette. She wore jeans and a simple sweater so different from her power suits yet somehow more intimidating. "Jake," she said, turning to face me, "this is unexpected. They want me to lie about you," I blurted out. "Westfield offered me the permanent CFO position if I sign a statement saying you misused company resources." Her expression didn't change. "And you came here to tell me you're taking the deal." "What?" "No." I stepped closer. "I came to warn you. They're setting you up. They've wanted you gone for months." She laughed softly without humor. "I know. I've always known." "Then why didn't you fight back?" "Because fighting dirty means becoming what they are," she said simply. "I built that company on principles. The moment I compromise those, I've already lost." I ran a hand through my hair in frustration. "So you're just giving up, letting them win?" "I'm choosing my battles," she corrected. "And right now, my battle is figuring out who I am outside of that company." She studied me curiously. "Why are you really here, Jake?" The question caught me off guard. Why was I here? To warn her? To seek her advice? Or was it something else entirely? "I don't know," I admitted. "I just know that what they're doing is wrong and I can't be part of it. Even if it costs you everything, some things are worth more than a paycheck." She moved closer, close enough that I could smell her perfume. "Something subtle and expensive." "Like what?" "Like being able to look my daughter in the eye and tell her I did the right thing." I said, "Like being able to look at myself in the mirror." Catherine's expression softened. "You're a good man, Jake Sullivan, better than most." "I'm just trying to figure this out," I said honestly. "I have Lily to think about my mom's medical bills, but I also have to live with myself." "What will you do?" she asked. "I don't know yet, but I won't sign their statement." She nodded, then surprised me by taking my hand. "Whatever you decide, I want you to know something. That night at your apartment, it meant something to me, more than I expected it to." My heart raced as her fingers intertwined with mine. "It meant something to me, too." "Say that again," she whispered, echoing her words from that night. But looking at me this time, I met her gaze, finding courage I didn't know I had. "It meant something to me, Catherine." "You mean something to me?" This time she did close the distance between us, her lips finding mine in a kiss that felt like coming home and stepping off a cliff all at once. When we finally broke apart, she rested, her forehead against mine. "I've been thinking about doing that since I left your apartment." "Me too," I admitted. "This complicates things," she said. But she was smiling. "My life's already complicated," I replied. "What's one more complication?" We talked for hours that night about everything and nothing. About her plans to start her own company, about my dreams of providing Lily with opportunities one never had, about the fear and exhilaration of starting over. By the time I left her penthouse, dawn was breaking over the city, and I had a plan. Monday morning, I walked into Westfield's office with my head high. "Ah, Jake," he said, smiling, that shark-like smile. "I trust you've come to a sensible decision." I placed a folder on his desk. He opened it eagerly, then frowned. "What is this?" "My business plan," I said calmly. "I'm resigning. Effective immediately. I'm starting my own financial consulting firm." His face wrinkled. "You're making a grave mistake, Sullivan. I'll make sure you never work in this industry again." "I don't think so," I replied, sliding another document across his desk. "This is a copy of our conversation from Friday where you admitted the board has been plotting against Catherine for months. California is a two-party consent state for recordings, but luckily your office disclosure policy, written by Catherine, ironically states that all conversations in executive offices may be recorded for security purposes." The blood drained from his face. "You're bluffing." "Am I care to test that theory with the board, with the press?" I stood up. "I don't want a war, Westfield. I just want to leave cleanly and build something new, something I can be proud of." He stared at me, calculating. Finally, he nodded stiffly. "Get out. You'll have your severance package." "That's all I wanted," I said, turning to leave. "Sullivan," he called after me, "she'll break your heart. You know, Catherine Pierce doesn't know how to love anything except power." I paused at the door. "Maybe, but I'd rather take that chance than spend another day working for someone who doesn't know the difference between power and strength." The next few months were a whirlwind. Starting my own business while being a single dad tested every limit I had. There were nights I stayed up until 30 a.m. working after Lily was asleep, mornings when I packed her lunch with blurry eyes and a prayer that I wasn't forgetting something important. Catherine and I moved cautiously, both aware of the complications. She invested in my fledgling company, not charity. Jake, an investment. I know talent when I see it, and helped me secure my first major clients. Meanwhile, she was building something of her own, a consulting firm focused on helping women-led startups secure funding and navigate the corporate world. Within 6 months, she became the go-to name for female entrepreneurs looking to break through the glass ceiling. We kept our relationship private, both for Lily's sake and to avoid business complications. But on weekends, Catherine would come over for movie nights, helping Lily build elaborate blanket forts and never complaining when tiny fingers smeared popcorn butter on her designer clothes. You're different with her, I observed one night after Lily had finally fallen asleep, her head in Catherine's lap. She makes it easy, Catherine said, gently stroking Lily's hair. She doesn't care about quarterly projections or market share. She just wants to know if unicorns can swim. And can they? I teased. Absolutely, Catherine replied with mock seriousness, but only in fresh water. The salt hurts their hooves. 1 year to the day after Catherine showed up at my door at midnight, I asked her to move in with us. Our businesses were thriving. Lily adored her, and I couldn't imagine my life without her in it. Are you sure? She asked, vulnerability flashing across her face. Your life is already full, Lily. Your mom, the business. That's exactly why I'm sure, I said, taking her hands in mine. My life is full, but it's more complete with you in it. You make us better. She looked at me, really looked at me, the way she had that night when she'd asked me to say it again while looking at her. I love you, Jake Sullivan. You and Lily both. Say that again, I whispered, but looking at me, she smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. I love you, both of you, more than I ever thought possible. 2 years later, Catherine's firm had grown to 30 employees, and my consulting business had expanded to 3 cities. We bought a house with a backyard for Lily and room for the baby boy we were expecting in the spring. Life wasn't perfect. We argued about work hours and parenting styles. Catherine still struggled to leave her CEO mindset at the office, and I sometimes felt inadequate next to her brilliance. But we figured it out day by day, building something stronger than either of us could have created alone. On our wedding day, Lily, now 8, served as our flower girl and self-appointed wedding planner. As Catherine walked down the aisle, radiant in a simple, white dress that showed off her pregnancy, I remembered that rainy night when she'd knocked on my door, broken and lost. You saved me, she whispered, later as we danced under the stars. No, I corrected her. We saved each other. Sometimes the most beautiful journeys begin with a knock at midnight and the courage to open the door, not knowing what waits on the other side. Sometimes love finds us when we're at our most vulnerable, when all our carefully constructed walls have crumbled. And sometimes the most powerful words in the world are simply, say that again, but looking at me. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more heartfelt content that reminds us all of the power of second chances and unexpected love. I'd love to know which country you're watching from. Drop it in the comments below. Remember, sometimes the bravest thing we can do is open our door when life knocks. Even at midnight, you never know what beautiful chapter might be waiting to begin.